One of the questions I am most commonly asked is, how do you know what's safe when you're starting strength training? And I am answering this from um, as someone who has an autoimmune condition and struggles with exercise intolerance. Specifically, before I started weight resistance training most recently, I was so throughout COVID, beginning in March of 2020 through mid-August 2023, I was doing yoga and Pilates most days. However, and I was doing what I considered hardcore yoga on certain days, following classes online, actually working up a sweat. And to the point where I would suffer from um, like a flare up of what I associated with autoimmune symptoms the day after, or maybe 2 days after doing really hard workout sessions. So I was doing typically HIT at least once a week. A lower body HIT workout was about 35 minutes long. And then each one of the yoga and Pilates sessions that I did ranged from about 30 minutes up to an hour. And so if I did a HIT workout followed by a fairly hardcore yoga day where I was about, 45 minutes or so into it, and it was like really strenuous, like, I was really struggling to do the moves, then chances were pretty high that on day three, so HIT workout day one, intense yoga workout day two, on day three, I would crash and have some sort of autoimmune symptom. And whether this presented as a headache, like a migraine, or whether this presented as typically for me when I'm suffering Hashimoto's symptoms, going up with a fullness in the right side of my neck. I feel like it's associated with enlarged lymph nodes in this area, and it's not that it's painful, it's that it's annoying. Or I would wind up crazy fatigued. And this was especially common in that period between when I stopped hormonal birth control and when I figured out what was going on with the chronic UTIs and had started um, working to correct that underlying insulin resistance. However, even after making the diet and lifestyle changes to start correcting the insulin resistance, I was still doing yoga and Pilates for a while longer. At this point, let's see. So I figured that out kind of in January of 2023, and it was mid-August 2023 before, um, you know, I, I finally made the switch in the exercise routine. So all of this is to say that I was experiencing exercise intolerance. And this is very common when your body is struggling with energy production and struggling to meet energy demands. Now, when I started strength training, I was very worried that I would wind up kind of in this vicious cycle, having all of these symptoms, day in and day out. Um, while I was strength training. And so I picked up strength training, like I went into it cautiously. I went into it slow. Um, I actually so my take on it was slow meaning short duration. So for the first 2 weeks of strength training, I would limit my sessions to 15 minutes a day and see how I felt the next day on whether or not I decided to do strength training or decided to take a rest day. And here, like, I was really serious about not pushing myself and saying, okay, I'm going to take a rest day. So I'll either do yoga or Pilates. No, take an actual rest day. Like when I made the commitment to get back into strength training, I was 100% in. And it was, this is your exercise routine from here on out. Like we are not doing any more HIT workouts without weights. We're not doing any more yoga workouts without weights. We're not doing any more Pilates workouts without weights. Everything will have weights in it, regardless of what you were doing. So it became strength training. Um, so I started out with 15 minutes and with weights heavy enough to reach fatigue between 8 and 16 reps. Now, what does this mean? So typically when you are strength training, there are two words to keep in mind. There are reps and there are sets. So let's pretend, just because I don't have, we're going to take my favorite author, Hilary Mantel, and use two of her books. And actually, I'm going to couple this with one of Bragg's books since these are different weights. So I've got the first and second of Hilary Mantel's trilogy on Thomas Cromwell and one of Rick Bragg's books. So let's pretend that these are dumbbells instead of books. You would lift heavy enough so that you reach a point where you are struggling to bring these all the way up in good form by between 8 and 16 reps. And this is back to back. So kind of a few of the things to keep in mind when you are strength training is that when you don't want to give yourself any rest. So between reps. So you'll come all the way up. This muscle is fully contracted at this time. And then you really control your movement on the way down, because it is in this extension process that you are really challenging this muscle, especially when you have weights that are heavy enough. So once you hit that somewhere between 8 and 16 reps, you're going to be like struggling where you cannot successfully complete your full range of motion up. And at that point, you are fatigued or have reached the point of failure for that set of reps. Then you will move on to the next exercise. And a really great way to get the maximum amount of work in for the minimum amount of time is to pair muscle groups. So for instance, you would work both your bis and your tris, so your biceps and your triceps, in one set. So I just completed this biceps. This is where we're working the front side of the arm. You would go straight from there into a tricep exercise. And so one example is extensions. And you can either be angled like this, or you can be full on like 90 degrees parallel with the ground. And what you're focusing on is contracting this muscle and then allowing extension. So it's the same concept where when you are allowing this muscle to extend, you are really focused on controlling that down movement. So you would do one set of 8 to 16 reps, bicep curls, followed by one set of your tricep extensions, and then you would take a break for 30 seconds or a minute, and then you would repeat that for your biceps and your triceps. And in that way, first of all, like you're able to work multiple muscle groups in a very short time frame, and like keep things moving, see things being built. Now, so the day after, so let's say I worked out for my 15 minutes of strength training on day one. The day after, I would check in with myself and see how I felt. Like, was I experiencing any signs of fatigue? Was I experiencing any symptoms that suggested that my body was in a worse state from meeting its energy demands than it was the day before? And so what this looks like for me is, do I have any inkling of symptoms associated with UTI? Like, do I have any inkling of urinary urgency at all? Does my pee smell funny? Am I breathing ketones? Do I have any kind of fatigue that, seems undue? Do I have any start of a headache going on? How's my neck feel? These are all the questions that I ask myself. And if the answer to all of those was no, I feel great, then great. Let's go ahead and do another 15 minutes the next day. And the other set of questions that I was asking myself is, how sore am I? Like, how sore are my muscles from the day before? Because this is another piece of it too. When you're building muscle, you are breaking down muscle tissue in order to build it back stronger, basically. And that creates a certain level of inflammation in your body. And so if you're already struggling with inflammation for any reason, be it an autoimmune condition, be it that you really are struggling with, meeting your energy demands, and so you are in a fat burning state instead of a carb burning state within your body, then this is another one where you have to consider that as well. What I found was, and this actually surprised me, I very quickly built up a resiliency to exercise that I had not known since the last time I was strength training. And it's something that I just, had kind of forgotten about, that, oh yeah, exercise can be something that's really easy to recover from. And it can be something that not only feels great while you're doing it, but it feels great after you're doing it as well. And so now typically I am doing strength training about 4 days a week for about 30 to 45 minutes a day, depending on, what my schedule allows. So, and, sometimes on the weekends, I'll throw in another session. So it winds up being, 5 days a week. Just because I'm like, yeah, I think I, want to work out this muscle set or something a little more. So, all of this is just take home for if you are struggling with an autoimmune condition. Um, this is just some information on how to get started, and and just know that it's not necessarily setting yourself up for failure or feeling bad. It's actually kind of doing the opposite and setting you up for feeling better more of the time. There's one other piece to this. A question I have been asked is, what is safe? How much strength training is safe for pregnant women? Now, for the answer is kind of the same. First of all, what strength training looks like during pregnancy depends very much on um, how pregnant you are, whether you're in first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. And it also depends on, um, you know, how many times have you miscarried before this one? How far postpartum, like if you've already had a child, how far postpartum are you now that you're having your second child? Are they is the pregnancy kind of back to back? Do you have a good window of time where you've recovered? You feel like, your body's replenished? Did you enter this pregnancy with anything going on, especially anything demand that suggests that your body is already struggling with energy demands, specifically things like UTI symptoms, things like breathing ketones, things like diabetes, things like autoimmune conditions, like any of this is all considerations. And so I do not make blanket statements when it comes to pregnancy, because there's so much going into it and so much going on with it that all it takes is for your progesterone levels to start dropping during pregnancy and have a miscarriage. So I don't make blanket statements regarding what's safe for strength training during pregnancy. For that, my preference is to work one-on-one with clients, first off, and then also even refer clients out to physical therapists who know what the hell they're doing working with pregnant women. So anyways, just my statement on that. It's not to say that you can't successfully introduce strength training into pregnancy. And I think that by doing so, you are helping so much with postpartum recovery. You're helping so much with just your energy process, like fetal development during pregnancy. But this one specifically is very individual for every single woman and every single pregnancy. So, for a woman, what worked during the last pregnancy sometimes during this one, and vice versa. So anyways, that's all I'm going to say about that. Hope you found this video helpful. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Oh yeah, be sure to subscribe to your hormone specialist and check out the website as well for all sorts of in-depth uh, self-guided programs, ways to work with me one-on-one, and pretty much anything else you need when it comes to hormonal balance. All right, catch you in the next one. Bye.